Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are watching me play Baldur's Gate 3. So, we're going to go through the character creator. This is just going to be my exploration through the new character creator. It's not going to be like an in-depth guide or anything like that. We're just going to be going through it and looking at everything that we can see. They've streamlined it a lot by the look of it. This gives me a lot more information just straight off the bat, which I like quite a bit. You can randomize, which is cool. A burly wood elf rogue. Halfling cleric of Bahamut. Interesting. It's cool. It's got like a randomized feature, which is nice. But let's go through the origin characters. So we can actually play as the origin characters now, which is cool. After 200 years serving a cruel master, the vampire-spawn Astarion is finally free. Free to walk in the sun, free to chase power, and free to take revenge. Play introduction.
Hello, darling. Don't be shy. I promise not to bite until we've been formally introduced. My name's Astarion, and I've spent a century stalking the night, hunting for pretty morsels just like you. A man called Cazador made me what I am, kept me like a pet, forced me to do his bidding. No more. The Tadpole's influence broke his dominance over me, and now I can finally pursue the one thing I've hungered for these long, dark years. Revenge. I'm going back to Baldur's Gate to track Cazador down in his lair. I'll be the last thing the bastard ever sees.
So beautifully campy. It's cool. They had these in DOS 2 as well, where you could like get a little introduction to each of them, which is quite nice. lae'zel was raised ready for a life amongst the stars, mercilessly conquering the cosmos as a Githyanki soldier. Grounded, she must deal with the world she doesn't understand, and find a way to serve her people in a plane that despises her militant kin.
Since I was born in the cold reaches of world space, I have known but one purpose: to wield a silver sword and ride a red dragon in service of my regent, the Githyanki Queen Vlaakith. My first step on this path is to slay a mind flayer and bring its head to my queen. There is no flesh I will not carve, and no barrier I will not shatter to see it done. I am the one who sunders. I am the Undying Queen's most unshakable warrior. I am lae'zel of Kalir.
Cool. Interesting there. Kind of small note that I didn't know, that her, like, the reason she was here in the first place, presumably, and the reason she was captured, is because she was trying to kill a mind flayer, which I guess is like an initiation for Githyanki fighters, which would make sense. Gale. Gale's wizarding prowess once earned him the love of Mystra, the goddess of magic, until his ambition led him to the brink of catastrophe.
Well met, stranger. You find yourself in the presence of the renowned wizarding prodigy, Gale of Waterdeep. Please, no need to be intimidated. My virtuosic talents once caught the eye of the goddess of magic herself, Mystra, who named me her chosen, and her lover. Thanks to a slight miscalculation on my part, that relationship eventually soured, as did the greatest of my powers. Now I'm merely a humble wizard on the road to redemption. Unless I can find the path to something greater.
Cool. Going from the lover of the goddess of magic to just a simple wizard must be somewhat annoying. Next we have Shadowheart. Shadowheart willingly undertook a ritual to remove her memories in order to protect the secrets of her fellow Shard Worshippers. Loss and pain are sacred to her, but her faith is now being tested like never before.
My name is Shadowheart, loyal servant of Shar, goddess of darkness and loss. There is little more I can tell you than that. My Lady Shar tasked me with a mission of such secrecy that I surrendered great swathes of my memory in order to safeguard the knowledge of it. All I know is that I must bring the artifact I hold to Baldur's Gate, and that nothing can stand in my way. My goddess is watching.
I do love Sharons. They're always more interesting. Will, known as the Blade of Frontiers, Will used his magic to fell the monsters and devils menacing the Sword Coast. In a moment of desperation, he accepted the offer of a greater power, forcing him into an infernal game he is struggling to play.
"7 years ago, I was exiled from Baldur's Gate, the city I call home. My name is Will, but the people of the Sword Coast call me the Blade of Frontiers, champion of the meek, defender of the innocent. The truth isn't quite so simple, but they're right about one thing. I hunt monsters, and I always catch my prey. My latest target is a devil, and I'm right on her tail. Once I'm through with her, she'll never escape the fires of the first hell."
Cool. We then have Karlach, who I never actually played with, by the way, because the last time I played Early Access, I think she was available in Early Access, but it was in a patch after I'd already said, okay, I'm just waiting for the full game to release, and I didn't really play much more. Karlach has escaped 10 years of service in the Hells with nothing but the axe on her back, and the infernal engine blazing furiously where her heart used to be. That's nutty. I'm pretty sure infernal engines run on soul coins, if I remember correctly, my random Forgotten Realms lore, which means she needs souls to keep her heart running, theoretically. That's cool.
Years ago, I was sold to the Archdevil Zariel. She put a hellfire engine in my chest and made me her prize soldier. But I've escaped now. Thank you, Mind Flayers. And I've got a few scores to settle. If this engine doesn't burn me to ash first, I'll need people I can trust. An infernal mechanic and a serious amount of luck. But you know what? I'm not worried. After 10 years in the Hells, I can take on anything. I've got my chance at freedom, and believe me, I'm going home. Interesting.
So she was enslaved by Zariel, which implies that she fought 10 years in the Blood War? That's, oof. Your appearance and class can be customized. You remember nothing but a path paved with blood. Unimaginable cruelty whispers at you from within. Can you escape it? Would you even want to? Seems the default for the Dark Urge is this white Dragonborn dude, which we've seen in some of the cutscenes. Actually, he's a cool looking character. Like a white Dragonborn covered in blood. But let's check the introduction, because apparently it has one.
My rancid blood whispers to me, kill, kill, and kill again. My ruined body yearns to reap death in this world. And when this foul urge calls, it possesses my whole being. Injured, beyond repair. I know nothing besides this. I must resist the dark urge, lest it consume my mind.
Ooh, his fate.
I must discover who I was, and what happened to me. Before my twitching knife hand writes a tragedy in blood.
Cool. I was going to play the Dark Urge. I was thinking of doing my first playthrough as Dark Urge, because I am going to be going evil, pretty solidly evil my first playthrough. But Sven Vinker, the lead of Larian, actually changed my mind, because in an interview he said that he would prefer to play his first playthrough, and he thinks the best first playthrough is to do a custom character first. Because then if you're planning on doing subsequent playthroughs, that is, which I am, I probably am going to do a full playthrough as every Origin character. So I'll do my first one as a custom character, and then every character after that I'll probably do an Origin one, and I'll probably do multiple custom characters, but I'll also do a bunch of Origin characters later. But I think it'll be good to have my first playthrough as custom. I think I agree with Sven Vinker there. But a couple of things we need to check is we have body types. This male, female, I assume. I had 4 before. I wonder if Dragonborn don't get multiple. That could make sense, actually. Let's edit appearance and see what we get. So we have female Dragonborn here, who you can change a lot of their faces, eh? I like the amount of customization we have here. It's quite cool. I'm not going to go over every single customization, but I will give it a quick once-over. We can change the skin color. I assume this is based on Draconic Heritage, but like I'm currently a white Dragonborn, right? I bet if I went to my race and changed my race, the color here would change. But that looks cool. That actually looks more like silver than white to me. That looks like a silver Dragonborn, which is cool. I'm going to check out this feature. I'll probably turn it off for my playthrough, but there is a genitals feature, which, you know, I kind of want to see. I'll have to blur this for you guys, because YouTube is weird. I think, strictly speaking, the as-written rule on YouTube is it's fine to have nudity, as long as it's contextually relevant and not, like, just there for gratuitous reasons. Which, I don't know, in a character creator seems like it would be fine, but nevertheless, I'm going to censor it one way or the other. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't even think I have to censor that with the dragon, because that doesn't look like anything. If we then change to male, that's actually, like, legitimately weird, I must say. The reason I'm calling that interesting, by the way, is because it's definitely, they went to the effort of making a dragon penis, which is, I mean, someone had that job. But body art, we have piercings. But going back to the actual character creator, we have the races. So, I may have actually skipped over some of that stuff. I was looking over the basics of the editor, the appearance editor. It looks pretty good, honestly. It's added a lot more compared to the early access, which I am not surprised by, but I'm happy about it. Notably, you can change your body type here as well, and you can randomize appearance. And if you randomize appearance, like I can randomize this a few times, it will actually save your previous randomizers, so you can actually go back to the previous ones that you get, which is really, really nice. It's a good feature. More games should have it. Nevertheless, we have elves. With ethereal countenance and long lifespans, elves are at home with nature's power, flourishing in light and in dark alike. Base racial speed of 30 feet. Elven weapon training, you have proficiency with longswords, short swords, longbows, and shortbows. Dark vision up to 40 feet. And Fey ancestry, you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. If you want to know a bit more about the basics, I have a video going over the basics of advantage, saving throws, all that kind of stuff. I will link that up in the top right. But moving on, we have tieflings. Descendant from devils of the Nine Hells, tieflings face constant suspicion in Faerun. Thankfully, their arcane abilities make them natural survivors. 30 feet of movement speed, dark vision up to 40 feet, and you get hellish resistance. You have resistance to fire damage, taking only half damage from it. Quite nice. Next we have Drow. Driven to the Underdark, most Drow have adopted a ruthless pragmatism. While the Lothsworn delight in the goddess's evil tenets, the Seldarine reject her attempt to overthrow the leaders of the Elven Pantheon. Once again, 30 feet. We have Drow weapon training, superior dark vision, and Fey ancestry. We also have sub-races for all of these, which I guess I will go over as I'm going through them. So we go to this, we have High Elf, which gives you a cantrip, and we have Wood Elf, which gives you extra movement speed. Interesting. It usually also gives you stealth proficiency, which maybe it does here. It's given it to me, but I don't know whether... Let me just check something. abilities? Okay, so it does give you the stealth proficiency as well. It just doesn't tell you what it does. Good to know. Small note, I think they should probably add the proficiencies it gives you into these as well, because there are some proficiencies that you get from race that it's not necessarily telling you about till later. But nonetheless, we have the high elves, so we get a cantrip. What else? We get extra movement speed, and we are proficient in stealth. Next, we have tieflings and the sub-races for tieflings. We have Asmodeus Tiefling, gives us produce flame, which is, I think, different. I think this used to be thaumaturgy, but I guess thaumaturgy is now only on the Zariel Tiefling, which is cool. Then we have the Mephistopheles Tiefling, which gives us main hand, and Zariel, which gives us thaumaturgy. These will give us extra spells as we level up, but these just depend on the devil that your bloodline comes from. Next we have Drow, and the sub-races for Drow. We have Lothsworn, or Saldarine. I don't actually think they give you anything different specifically, but they are lore-wise different. Human. The most common race in Faerun, humans are known for their tenacity, creativity, and endless capacity for growth. 30 feet movement speed, civil militia, you have weapon proficiency with spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, and armor proficiency with light armor and shields. Interesting. Human versatility, select an additional skill to be proficient in. Your carrying capacity is increased by a quarter. Okay. That's pretty good. Additional skill to be proficient in. I think any skill, if that's any skill, that's actually pretty good. Let me just check. Yeah, okay. You can choose literally any skill. So that is actually a kind of good background now. I had heard previously that you got the extra carrying capacity. I didn't know about the extra skill proficiency. That actually probably makes up for it. It's actually quite nice. Moving on, we have Githyanki. With a ruthlessness born from mind flayer enslavement, Githyanki ride the astral sea atop red dragons, bringing their silver swords and psionic might to bear against any trace of the Illithid menace. We have astral knowledge, gain proficiency with any skill of a chosen ability. Interesting, they actually added this. I don't think this was in the early access, but this is actually something Githyanki have from the books, like the D&D books. But you can just give yourself a proficiency. Every day you can wake up and say, I want to be proficient in this, and you are, which is cool. It's a good ability. You get the Mage Hand cantrip. This will also give you extra spells as you level up as well. But they have 30 feet of movement and martial prodigy. A lifetime of relentless training gave you armor proficiency with light and medium armor, as well as proficiency with short swords, long swords, and great swords. Next we have dwarves, which have 25 feet of movement speed because they're shorter. Dwarven combat training, proficiency with battle axes, hand axes, light hammers, and warhammers. Dark vision up to 40 feet. And dwarven resilience, you have advantage on saving throws against poison, and you have resistance to poison damage. There are a few subclasses here. We have the gold dwarf, which increases your maximum hit points by 1 and increases 1 every time you gain a level, which is cool. We have the shield dwarf. Dwarven armor training, you have armor proficiency with light and medium armor. It's fine. And then we have the Duergar. Once enslaved by the Eldritch Mind Flayers, Duergar are adapted to a freedom with harsh practicality. Their cold demeanors and gift of stealth are well known throughout the Underdark. It gives us superior dark vision, as I would expect, up to 80 feet instead of 40. And we have Duergar resilience, you have advantage on saving throws against illusions and against being charmed or paralyzed. Interesting. Cool. And then we have half-elves, which give 30 feet of movement, civil militia, so they get weapon training with spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, and armor proficiency with light and armor and shields. So they get that from their human parent, seemingly. And they get dark vision, they can see up to 40 feet. And then they have Fey Ancestry. You have advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. And then we have the sub-races, which is based on which elf you are. So high half-elf gives you an wizard cantrip. Wood elf gives you the extra movement speed and the stealth proficiency. And Drow half-health gives you the Drow magic, so you'll get Dancing Lights at level 1, and as you level up, you'll get more spells as you go. Halfling. Small yet capable, halflings prefer the comforts of home and hearth, but their natural luck and dexterity makes them fine adventurers. 25 movement speed, just like the dwarves, because they are slightly shorter. They are lucky. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. And they're brave. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. As for sub-races, we have the Lightfoots, which get an advantage on stealth checks. Makes sense. See, it's weird that I mean, this is different. This is advantage, not just proficiency, but it's still odd. And then we have the strong hearts, which give you advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage, the same as dwarves. Moving on, we have gnomes. This is probably the race I'm going to be playing, by the way. I'm probably going to be playing a forest gnome. Small, clever, and energetic, gnomes use their long lives to explore Faerun's brightest corners of darkest depths. We have 25 feet of movement and gnome cunning. You have advantage on intelligent, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. We then go here. We have rock gnomes. They have dark vision up to 40 feet and artificer's law. Add twice your proficiency bonus to history checks. We have forest gnomes. They have dark vision up to 40 feet, and they have the spell Speak with Animals that they can cast for free. I'm probably going to be doing a forest gnome. I like the idea of being able to speak to all the animals, and just having that on my character all the time is kind of cool. Then we have deep gnomes, or Svirfneblin as they are known. They have superior dark vision, so they can see up to 80 feet, because they come from the Underdark, and they have advantage on stealth checks. Dragonborn. As you can see here, Black Dragonborn. A proud race that values the clan and skills above all else. Once enslaved by dragons, they strive to be self-sufficient, not wanting to be beholden to anyone, not even the gods. 30 feet of movement speed, and we can go to the sub-races. We have a lot of sub-races here. Black Dragonborn. Despite no ancestral links to their mighty creatures, these Dragonborn share the chaotic coloration and fizzed acid breath of black dragons. So as an action, you can do your acid breath. 2d6, spew forth a cone of acid. And Draconic Ancestry, you are resistant to acid damage. So all of these are going to be essentially the same. Blue dragons will give you a lightning breath, cone of lightning, and you can do resistance to lightning, brass, column of fire, and you get resistance to fire. Bronze is a cone of lightning and resistance to lightning. Copper, acid breath, resistant to acid. Gold is going to be fire. Green is going to be poison, red is going to be fire, silver is going to be cold, and white is going to be cold. So all of these are pretty much what you would expect, I think. You can see here they look really good though, I must say. They definitely look the coolest. It's hard to not give them props for making the Dragonborn as cool as they do. Like, they look good, honestly. Wow, look at that. It looks amazing. Alright, and moving on, we have the half-orc. Creatures of intense emotion, half-orcs are more inclined to act than contemplate. Whether the rage burning their bodies compels them to fight, or the love of filling their hearts inspires acts of incredible kindness. Okay, I see. 30 feet of movement, dark vision up to 40 feet, relentless endurance. If you reach 0 hit points, you gain 1 hit point instead, becoming downed. Pretty good. Savage attacks. When you land a critical hit with a melee weapon attack, your damage dice are tripled instead of doubled. It's pretty fantastic. Okay, there are no sub-races. So, moving on, we can go to class. Let's start with Barbarian and then move our way down. The strong embrace the wild that hides inside. Keen instincts, prime physicality, and most of all, an unbridled, unquenchable rage. So you get the ability to rage, which gives you extra damage on your attacks. It also gives you advantage on strength checks and saving throws. And you also get unarmored defense. So while you're not wearing armor, you add your constitution modifier and your dexterity modifier to your armor class. So your armor class is going to be higher while you're not wearing armor than it would be otherwise. As I said, again, all of these things are going to be somewhat esoteric terms. I do have a basics video that I've already linked, and I'll show you all of the stuff you need to know if you're unaware of any of these terms. Next up, we have the Bard class. So essentially Barbarian, all about raging and running and doing melee damage. The Bard is a support caster. You know music is more than a fancy, it is a power. Through study and adventure, you have mastered song, speech, and magic within. Going down, you have the cantrips, spells, you can play a musical instrument, and you can give inspiration, but I guess that is not until a higher level? No, there it is, Bardic Inspiration, there we go. Inspire an ally to add a d6 bonus to their next ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, so you just buff your teammates. Very much a support caster is the cleric, is the bard, as is the cleric. Cleric tends to be closer to healer in a lot of ways. I will actually note that you choose your subclass as well at level 1 for a cleric, which is different to the other ones we've seen so far. But you have cantrips, which are level 0 spells, you have your leveled spells. It is worth noting, here we go, subclass. So with subclass, you have a bunch. You have Life Domain. The Life Domain is the aspect of many good deities offering spells that protect and restore the mind, body, and soul. We have Light Domain. The Light Domain is offered by deities of justice, majesty, and primordial flame, providing spells that dispel darkness and harm the undead. Trickery Domain. The domain shared by wicked, chaotic, and mischievous deities alike. Those who channel trickery specialize in deception and illusion magic. That is what Shadowheart is off by default, I believe. Knowledge Domain. Adaptable and adroit. In all manner of languages and skills, your mind is an intellectual cup, brimming with exquisite knowledge. There's a bunch of things you get for these as well, but I'm not going to go over them too deeply. Nature, the embodiment of vast viridian power of the natural world, an avatar of subtle divinity, of fruitful avian migration, woodland silence, and the landslide's roaring fury. So you're essentially a nature cleric. Then we have the Tempest Domain. The faith has made you the very thunder that quakes the black firmament, the lightning coursing through your veins of a terrible storm. Wrath of the Storm. Cool ability. War Domain. Fortified by holy zeal, you brandish an arsenal of sacramental savagery to use against those you deem unrighteous. So that was all subclasses for cleric. Moving on, we have the Druid. Druids channel the elemental forces of nature and share a deep kinship with animals. Mastery of wild shape allows them to transform into beasts from all over the realm. So essentially you are a nature caster and you can turn yourself into beasts. That is Druid. Fighter, the most basic class really. Pretty much the master of any kind of weapon. Any weapon you find you'll be able to use, any armor you find you'll be able to use, and you'll be able to use them well. Gets a lot of features for doing a bunch of damage with weapons essentially. Next we have the Monk, who is new. We didn't have this in early access. Monk is what you might expect. The Monk is essentially a kung fu movie. Depending on the subclass, which you will get later, you can have some that are a bit like Avatar The Last Airbender, you've got some that are a bit like ninjas, and then you have some that are straight up just kung fu movie, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Channel your cosmic enlightenment to deftly dodging and efficiently disassembling your foes through stunning strikes and a whirlwind of martial arts attacks. Oh, I might have to do a monk playthrough at some point. Paladin. These are holy warriors, essentially. They're kind of a mix between a cleric and a fighter. Is probably the best description of them, but they're a bit more complex than that. Fueled by the oath you swore to uphold justice and righteousness, you're a beacon of hope in dark times. Subclass, we have Oath of Agents. You fight on the side of light in the cosmic struggle against darkness to preserve the sanctity of life and the beauty of nature. We have Oath of Devotion. Following the ideal of the knight in shining armor, you act with honor and virtue to protect the weak and pursue the greater good. And then finally, we have the Oath of Vengeance. You have set aside even your own purity to right wrongs and deliver justice to those who have committed the most grievous sins. I do like Vengeance Paladins quite a bit. Moving on, we have Ranger. So, Rangers... don't get the subclass yet. Rangers are essentially a mix between a fighter and a rogue, I would say. They're very proficient with a lot of different weapon types. They excel at being archers, but you can also take them down in two-weapon fighting up in close range. They can also get animal companions, and they have a kind of very basic spellcasting ability. A lot of kind of heal spells and nature-based spells. Rangers are unrivaled scouts and trackers, honing a deep connection with nature in order to hunt their favored prey. Next we have rogues. So, rogues are exactly what you would expect them to be, thieves, assassins, that kind of thing. With stealth, skill, and uncanny reflexes, rogues' versatility lets them get the upper hand in almost any situation. Their main thing is sneak attack. That's their main mechanic, is they get extra damage on their attacks if you meet certain conditions. Then we have the three major damage-dealing magic subclasses. We have Sorcerer. Sorcerers are natural spellcasters drawing an inherent magic from a gift or bloodline. So, essentially, they are spellcasters where they know all their spells, they inherently have all their spells, and they kind of manipulate their spells. So they can like take one spell that normally hits one person, they can split it off so it hits two people. They can cast spells that are usually really loud, they can kind of manipulate the magic a bit to make it silent, things like that. Straight spellcaster essentially. Next we have the Warlock. Bound by a pact for an all-powerful patron, warlocks trade their loyalty for supernatural abilities and unique magic. So these are spellcasters that don't get as many spell slots, but their spell slots will restore on a short rest rather than a long rest, which means that you can rest more easily to get their spell slots back. And they have a very powerful cantrip called Eldritch Blast, which you will be leveling up probably a fair amount I will go over the subclasses for these as well, actually. I missed one on Sorcerer, but if we go to Sorcerer, we have Mild Magic. Your powers come from ancient forces of chaos. They churn within you, waiting to burst free at any moment. So essentially what these guys are all about, every time you cast spells or do certain things, there is a chance to roll Wild Magic, which I will just do this and show you. Unruly magic sparks and fizzles through your veins. For sorcerers, each time you cast a spell of level 1 or higher, your magic might surge and trigger a random magical effect. For barbarians can also get a similar thing. But this can be really useful for you. Maybe it'll give you an extra turn. Maybe it'll do X, Y, Z. It can also be disastrous because, you know, it could just make you explode in fire. Anything could happen, really. Next, we have the Draconic Bloodline. As you can see here, it actually adds scales to you, which is kind of cool. Your veins carry Draconic magic, the result of a powerful dragon ancestor. This gives you a couple of things. Notably, you get resilience, so you get extra armor class. And you get more hit points as you level up. Then we have Storm Sorcery. Whether crackling with the energy of ancient deluges or pierced by gales and hurricanes, your lineage is a strange tapestry scrawled by the tempest. They get a bunch of lightning magic that they're very, very good with, but they all can also fly very easily. After you cast a level 1 spell or higher, you can fly as a bonus action until the end of your turn without receiving opportunity attacks. It's a cool class. The ability to fly at level 1 is very, very cool. Next we have Warlock, and they have those subclasses as well. So the subclass of Warlock is based on what patron you have. So we have the Fiend. Warlocks in service to fiends work towards corrupting, destructive ends, intentionally or otherwise, and receive hellish blessings in return. And we have the Great Old One, so things like Cthulhu. Warlocks bound by eldritch beings in the far realm work towards inscrutable goals, getting strange powers over entropy and the mind. And then we have Archfey. Graced by the Lady or Lord of the Fae, you are imbued with all the sumptuous and scary qualities of your patron's extraordinary realm, so you get a bunch of illusion spells, generally speaking. And then finally, we have Wizard. Wizard master the arcane by specializing in individual schools of magic, combining ancient spells with modern research. So essentially, as opposed to a sorcerer who kind of innately has their spells, wizards learn their spells by studying. We're going to see a lot of subclasses when we go into the wizard. But the wizard essentially is going to know the most spells in the game. The sorcerer knows less spells, but can do things to manipulate those spells. That's pretty much the difference between sorcerer and wizard. That's probably the biggest question I have with people with classes, is they don't know the difference between a sorcerer and a wizard. The main difference is, at least on a base conceptual level, the wizard is going to have a bunch more spells and have more versatility, but the sorcerer can take the fewer spells that they have, but they can manipulate an individual spell to do something more interesting. Moving on to the subclass, I went back to Sorcerer. Wizard, there we go. Oh yeah, you don't get your subclass for Wizard until later. You get a level 2 or 3. But essentially, the subclass for Wizard is just going to be what school of magic you focus on. That's going to be what you're going to do. I am probably going to play a Wizard for this playthrough. But moving on, we have backgrounds. So we have, are these all the ones that were in early access, or did they add more? These might just be the ones that were in early access. But essentially what your background is going to do, you can see here it gives a brief description of what your quote-unquote background is, and that will give you 2 skill proficiencies. And also you want to try and roleplay into this, generally speaking, is a good way to play in my opinion, because 1, it gives you mechanical benefits in inspiration, so you'll be able to get a reroll essentially that you can use when you like. But also, you know, it's an RPG, you want to play a role, play the role. And finally, we have ability scores. I've gone over these before in a previous video, but these are all your ability scores. Again, in my basics video, you can assign a +2 and a +1. By looking at it, it seems to have done it based off class, which is interesting. I don't like the fact that this is decoupled from race. I've thought about it for a while. I don't like it that much. It adds more flexibility and makes it easier to min-max, but I don't know. I like the races having more impact, I guess. In any case, I am going to now make my character. Custom. We're going to go a gnome. Subrace is going to be forest gnome. Class is going to be wizard. We can then move down. The cantrips I want to know. So they've actually changed the name of some of these spells, which is interesting. I guess to try and make them more descriptive of what they actually are. Enhanced leap rather than jump. That makes sense, I suppose. Yeah, we'll go find familiar. It's fine. Background, we are going to go Sage. These are the spells I chose, by the way. I did Ray of Sickness, Ice Knife, Magic Missile, Charm Person, Disguise Self, and Find Familiar. Background is going to be Sage, which gives me Arcana and History, but the main reason I want this is because you're curious and well-read with an unending thirst for knowledge. Learning about rare lore of the world will inspire you to put this knowledge to greater purpose. Ability scores. Strength is dumped. Let me look at... I don't want the bonus in con. Alright, everybody. So, this is my character created. We have an old gnome wizard. So, that's going to be the video on character creation. I'm going to cut back now. For you guys, this video may end here, but if you want to watch my first actual proper episode of the Let's Play, it will also be up today. I'm going to upload both of them today, so if you're watching this video, the other upload is probably already up. They're probably both up at the same time. But as I said, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you next time. Probably today, where we actually play the game for real. Thanks, guys.